Hey everyone, and welcome to Incendium Strategies' latest growth accelerator for July. We have a super short week this week with the 4th of July coming up, and our office is closed Thursday and Friday. So this is just a quick informal chat with two of my absolute favorite people in the world to ask questions to and get answers about stuff from, which would be Jack Vine and Anthony Cicconi. I did it. Okay.
You did it.
I'm joined. So today we're just going to share a couple different things that we've been working on, experimenting on, and have incorporated into some of our workflows over the last 6 months since AI tools have really proliferated the marketplace. As Anthony has said, it's kind of a race to the bottom in certain verticals. There's markets that are really saturated and you can get, previously enterprise level tools for cheap. There's also some that maybe, aren't as effective yet. And certainly AI is always in need of a good copy editor and a good little scrub before it's ready to go out into the world. So we'll touch on that too. So we're going to cover a couple different areas of AI, from sales to marketing, from infrastructure to content production, and show you some of the tools that we've been loving and using almost daily for the last 6 months. So in keeping in our areas of expertise, I'm going to be talking a little bit about marketing strategy and content. Anthony is going to talk about email deliverability and all things email and different email platforms. And then Jack is going to dive into sales, outbound motions, and building a successful motion at scale with some of these new AI tools. So that's the little gist of what we're going to do today. Hello for anybody who might be watching us on LinkedIn right now. You'll see these clips later or not at all. I can cut this out. It'll be great. And in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to chat about different email platforms and some of the use cases he's been trying lately. So take it away.
Yeah, for sure, Kristen. I think that's a really good point you touched on there, is that, we need to take everything in life with a grain of salt, and especially this stuff. So there's been an insane proliferation of these tools in the last 18 months, really, and they all need to be taken with a pretty big grain of salt. So we can dive into a little more about that here in a bit. But I think it'd be interesting to start off with kind of where we started on AI/automation tools. Really began in like the pre-pandemic days. So like rewind like all the way back to what seems like centuries ago, pre 2020. Incendium really found its core bread and butter around that time by conducting kind of like very strategic, pointed, cold email outbound campaigns, right? So one of the things, obviously, that was always important that we would show to our members was the just general reporting on these campaigns. So the basic stuff is very straightforward to report on, right? Reply rate, open rate, positive reply rate, bounce rate, opt-out rate, all that sort of stuff. All that is pre-packaged, and whenever you do a cold outbound campaign, you see it right there. But what we quickly realized is that there is a ton of value that's often completely overlooked and uncaptured in the qualitative data, which is namely just every single email response that we get. So at the volume of which we're reaching out to people back in the day, we're getting a ton of email replies of people saying all different kinds of things, all different kinds of feedback, objections, comments on what we're reaching out to them about. And we needed to find a way, I guess, to put that all together, package it into one place. So the way we started doing this was we literally would manually copy and paste every single email reply we got in our email inbox to a Google Sheet and go from there. So that sounds absolutely as horrible as you guys might imagine.
Yes, that sounds like the most horrible. That sounds like everyone's first job in sales is copy and paste spreadsheets.
Yeah,
There you go. You're done.
absolutely horrible. It's and really, like, frankly, from a business perspective, it's not the best use of anyone's time either, right? So aside from that, taking up time and not being scalable is also very prone to errors, especially as it grew at scale. So like the more you're doing this mindless copy and pasting every day, the more you might mess up on something and just enter in a typo, miscategorize something. So eventually we started working with one of our close business partners who's an AI engineer, product manager, and he helped us design kind of an internal workflow tool that we would use. And so this tool, this workflow that we have built, has essentially replaced that entire job for us. So this workflow lives in each one of our email inboxes. It scans them in real time, like literally every single minute. It'll scan our inbox, and it automatically populates a spreadsheet or a database with all of the relevant information that we would normally populate on an email. So like the actual response itself, the person's name, the person's email address, where that person came from, what source, what type of language they received in their outreach, the date, all this sort of stuff. So it does it instantly. Additionally, we can also use the AI will kind of like auto suggest categorizations for us. So we have some automations built in where if we get a reply that we would categorize as warm per se, so like maybe someone asking a question or for further clarification, we can connect Zapier and we can get a ping in our Slack immediately if there is a reply that needs immediate attention. So we've kind of built this system so that there's always one final layer of human input on top of this, which again, kind of going with the taking with a grain of salt theme is very important. But this covers like the 80/20 of it for sure. We've had this running now in its final form for over a year now. And it really like allows us to continually capture this extremely valuable data set, that was previously going underutilized. And like importantly from our perspective, it's taken a job that previously took every single person on our team certainly over 10 hours a week. So like in aggregate, that's many man hours, and reducing that to somewhere 30 minutes or less. So that's a huge time savings for us, and allows us to also like deliver our partners a much better experience. And another kind of more recent example of AI related to email that I would lean on is the entire process of creating email domains and email accounts. So this is, there's a lot of parallels between these two. This is another process that was extremely tedious, extremely time consuming, and always needed to be done. So similar to email categorization, like it always needs to be done. It's always going on in the background. Creating and warming up email addresses and domains needs to be happening all the time so you can stay on top. So this used to be done manually, every single step of it. So easily took 10 plus hours a week, sometimes more, depending on what we needed. Now there are a handful of good third party softwares out there that we use and we trust that use AI to do this, completely. So the AI will suggest domain names for you based on what input you give it. It will suggest email account names. It will autofill all of the DNS and DMARC settings, which you don't need to do. And again, that will take what was previously a 10 plus hour a week project into something that's, minutes, really like 15, 20 minutes in general. So it saves us a ton of time. It does just as good of a job. And again, it kind of removes the layer of, or I guess the potential for error that comes in when frankly, humans are just doing a tedious, monotonous kind of amount of work. Yeah, and so I mean, we have even more like AI tools that we can layer in, especially on email on top of that, and marketing as well, which I believe Kristin said you could touch on, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a super good point you just made, Anthony, about how when it's a really tedious task, there really isn't much reason to not have AI replace it. I think coming from marketing and a writing background, obviously some of us are kind of horrified at what AI considers to be like good copywriting. However, I will freely admit that much as y'all know that I can't add or subtract numbers in my head, I also can't, use spreadsheets. And so using ChatGPT for sheets, I wish it was better, but it works sometimes. But I have gotten the formulas that I need that I then like save to like copy paste for later. So it's in those technical details, I think AI is a great use. And I'm actually very encouraged to hear that like the DKM and like DMARC settings, it sounds like if it's getting all of those right, since that's something us humans often fail at and don't resolve DNS issues by ourselves. So that's good for robot friends.
Yeah, and the formulas thing is big because, like, remember
Yeah.
before ChatGPT, like, if you needed help on a formula, you could spend hours Googling and,
Yep.
on what Stack Overflow, like websites like
Yes.
that, trying to figure out like what formula
Life
works. Like,
changing.
it could take you hours to find something. Now ChatGPT, like, it's not always right the first time, but like, it won't take you any longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah, no.
It's
RAP
huge.
Stack Overflow. No.
Yeah, I don't miss it.
That's how we all learned to code was
Yeah,
Stack Overflow. So
yeah.
I'd rather have a Copilot, I think, for accuracy. So writing, marketing us marketers, writers with a little bit of an antagonistic relationship with AI in the sense that, like, we'll just have AI write it. I'm not a firm believer in that, but very much a firm believer in anywhere that it can make the monotonous or maybe just flat out things you aren't good at part of your day a lot better. So one of the workflows that I've been loving is for video for social posts. So first of all, we're using StreamYard right now to record this, and not only can we stream it live to LinkedIn, but it also gives us the option to download each speaker's individual video stream separately, which makes for much easier video editing. So definitely recommend StreamYard. Another great tool, and actually, Jack, if you just want to pop up my screen really quick, I have a couple things to share. So if you're not using StreamYard, Riverside.fm is another really popular platform for video recording and podcasting. This is a clip from one of our members and sons. There's Thomas's lovely face. So what we did for this was I was helping him with his social media. And so in order to get through a lot of content quicker, we recorded about 22 minutes worth on Riverside. From there, again, you have your separate tracks ready to download, and full high quality, well, it's not 4K, but close enough, 1080p, better than nothing, better than Zoom. And yes, it does, kind of make some AI snapshots for you. That wasn't really the use case for this, and I personally haven't found that to be that helpful to pull out nuggets. So even though Riverside's great for recording for audio quality and video quality, AI, not so much. That is where the magic of Descript comes in. And if anyone has not used Descript before, it's a fantastic text-based video editor. So you can see here's all of my projects. But we'll just jump into our last growth accelerator that we did. And you can see that we have the video, and I created this by uploading the 2 different streams and combining them into one single track in Descript. And then it takes just a few minutes of processing, and you have every single thing that we all said as a transcript. This makes it super easy to, find certain things if you want to search in for, a certain word. It also auto plays when you hit the spacebar. You search results. This is really useful for correcting like people's names or company brand names or things like that. But you can also ask AI to do a whole lot of things. A fun one is that you can ask AI to remove filler words. So all of those ums that we all say, and I try not to, but they're always going to sneak in. You can remove all of the filler words and repeated words. That will then be denoted in the actual transcript. There's these little kind of line demarcations that show that something was removed there, and you can add them back in if you'd like to. You can actually also do green screen, which is super, super useful. Just by clicking on the video, it will completely remove the background and let you replace it with anything, which, having worked at a startup where we actually had a full-on green screen set up in one of our offices, is kind of nuts to me that you can now just like with a click remove backgrounds. You can also have the eye contact is really fun. I did try this with Thomas, which was that when our eyes go all over as we're looking at different screens and we're talking to each other on these live streams, you can have the AI make it so that your eyeballs are looking straight at the camera the whole time. It's less creepy and more effective than it sounds. You can also repurpose, create clips, save templates. So in terms of video editing, Descript is one of my favorite tools. To get those social clips, all you have to do is find, let's say, like an interesting nugget in the transcript, and then you highlight it and you hit duplicate to new composition. And from there, you now have this much shorter clip. So now this is like a 49-second clip, perfect for YouTube Shorts, perfect for social media. And from here, you can also swap to different orientations and go on and edit from there. So I love Descript for taking video content and turning it into social clips. But another really fun thing that you can do is you can actually export a transcript of the entire show. So if you go to the export options, there's a transcript, and that's just a Microsoft Word doc. So we're going to go ahead and hit export. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this into Jasper. Jasper is an AI copywriting tool I've used actually since it first came out in, I want to say, fall or winter of 2022, I believe. I was doing some freelance copywriting, and a lot of it was in the real estate industry, where it is fairly standard stuff, kind of similar seasonal things year after year, kind of a perfect use case for early AI, and started playing around with Jasper to write some real estate blogs. And it never got me 100% of the way there, but for content that was already pretty heavily proliferated on the internet, things like the 5 best staging tips to sell your home faster, or the kinds of things that every real estate agent is going to have on their blog pretty much nationwide. Jasper was able to search the web and really pretty much write it without me, which was sort of terrifying, but also sort of cool. And since then, the product's just gotten better and better. They should pay me for this, but they probably won't. So you can go here and hit new document. And what we're going to do is we're going to upload, we're going to go here and we're going to go to Remix. And this lets us upload a file. And so we're going to upload that transcript that we just exported from Jasper, which is the entire, 30-minute long transcript from the Growth Accelerator. And then from there, we can ask it to do a number of things. One of my favorite hacks is to record yourself and someone else speaking in a case study format, and then ask Jasper to just turn it into a case study. We didn't exactly position it that way, but let's just see what we get. So we're going to say, remix this transcript into a case study format with an introduction, problem, solution, and conclusion. And so this would be about why remote work is essential. And let's see what we get. I have not found Jasper to be as great at cold emails or email sequences. I think that's one of the things it fails on. I think probably because there are a lot of bad best practices circulating out there. And if that's a lot of the data it's been trained on, I do find it produces like fairly generic cold emails, and the subject lines are always really long. I don't know why. I find this on ChatGPT as well, that if you ask it for 10 email subjects about AI tools, they all have colons and they're all like really long, and I don't know why. But anyway, we can now see within a couple seconds, case study, navigating the remote work revolution. Welcome to the area of remote work. We've got some problems with ensuring productivity and effective communication. That sounds good. The solution, we have to have lucid communication channels. I like that. That's good. Regular check-ins, and setting up performance metrics that are rooted in activities, not just outcomes, which is exactly something that we talked about on that Growth Accelerator. So great to see it's picking that up. And then a conclusion. And then from there, if you can just imagine this is a full case study, you've got 90% of your work done for you. The last step is to throw it into Canva, which also has a lot more AI tools. Their background eraser also, by the way, is really nice. So no more like needing Photoshop to erase pixels, which was a very time-consuming and horrible job for a long time. And then within, from Descript, from whatever you're recording to Descript to Jasper to Canva, you can have a fully produced case study, formatted visuals, all of that, I would say in 2 hours or less, depending on just how quick you are. But these have been some amazing tools and workflows that I've found to really maximize your content production and also make your video editing and your writing abilities and all of that look maybe a lot more robust than they actually are. So.
Thank you, Kristin. Yeah, so I'm going to touch on kind of some of the tools, or basically the main tool we've used to personalize outbound email at a scale that's, big, because a lot of these tools are very, very tightly focused on what an SDR would do, single prospects, reaching out one by one, maybe a little bit higher scale than that. But in a lot of those cases where you are approaching the big numbers, you start to lose control over the actual messaging it's putting out. You have less ability to kind of monitor what exactly it's sending. And in some of these cases, a lot of these tools are just sort of pulling in the generic info they're gathering from everybody else who's using them, kind of like Kristin mentioned, and maybe not spitting out the best thing always. So if you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit more fine-tuned, maybe something you can tweak yourself a lot more, I'm about to dig into that right now. I'm going to share my screen here just to kind of give you an idea of the normal landscape so far. This is the outbound platform we use. It's called reply.io. It's got a lot of great features, especially for us as an agency to just send a ton of emails for a ton of different clients using a ton of different accounts. It makes it very, very easy to do that. Now, they do have their own, what they call an AI SDR that can do, individual personalization for each person you've added to a sequence. We haven't fully tested it, but it is out there along with all these other SDR tools where if you do kind of want that base level personalization, just pulling in whatever information it can gather, usually from the file you're uploading, this can be, a quick and easy way to kind of get your foot into the water and give it a little test. A lot of them also do have these like very basic AI features. So this is just a description from the Incendium website. This is also GPT-3, which, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is pretty much dead in the water at this point compared to GPT-4o. But it does give you a few little options here. If you're just looking for something quick and don't want to go into your ChatGPT account or go to another platform, you can just create a quick email from the summary. It'll spit that back out for you. It's not always going to be great. It probably won't be great, but it is a way to just sort of play around with AI tools at their basic level and kind of get started. And then if you do want to level up, you can kind of get into personalizing, per prospect, which is when things start to get a little bit more interesting. And when you're really going to start to see the benefits of the sort of thing we've called, and I think everybody's called spin tax, mixing up the email as much as possible, prospect to prospect. So you're not hitting those spam filters that are pretty much crushing email deliverability across the board right now. It is a way to just bump that up a little bit. It's not going to change everything. You still need to use, as Anthony's described in our previous accelerators, different domains, got to warm them up as effectively as possible. And it's always changing. It's always something you kind of have to work against if you really want to make things work properly. But Reply just makes it easy to get your foot in the water as well as all these other tools that kind of give you that same option. If you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can get into something like Clay. So some of you may have heard of Clay. There's a lot of different uses for Clay.
It is the very hot tool right now, by the way. It is they just did, I think, another raise. So yes, it is.
Yeah. It's
proving valuable.
There's a lot of different things you can do here. Like, I do not want to understate that. They have a ton of different integrations. Data enrichment obviously is a big thing they do. And this sort of ties into that, and I'll get into that in a second. But this is kind of the way we found to personalize emails at scale for a set amount of prospects while still being able to, fine tune things and, not have it write the whole email. A lot of these tools are going to try to write you the whole email, and they don't really give you the ability to only say, like, I only want this part written, and then maybe this part stays, the same across, just so your messaging isn't affected too heavily. Some do, some don't. All of them, I would say, are not at this level of customization, and especially price. You'll notice with a lot of these platforms, the AI tool that they offer might be an additional charge on your account or requires a higher plan. It's a big thing. AI is a good buzzword, and it can sell a lot of subscriptions. So they're going to use it. They're going to sell it a little higher. This is sort of separate from all that noise. It's a tool that's made for a lot of different things. So you're not really getting upcharged significantly for just taking advantage of AI functionality. Kind of to walk through this real quick, I've just put in my own information here and made my title Growth Accelerator spelled wrong. Basically, what you do is you pop in the prospects info, and then the important part here, and this is kind of important for all of these AI tools, is public LinkedIn profiles that these tools can access, scan data from, and pull info out of. Because basically all the personalization the AI is using is sort of coming from LinkedIn, coming from information the prospects already provided publicly. That goes the same for the company website, company LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff. So basically, and I hope my profile is public enough to do this. I'm not 100% sure. Basically, you use this tool as a part of Clay. You can do LinkedIn enrichments, which pull out, oh, okay, good, it is. You can pull out a lot of different stuff from LinkedIn profiles, whether that's previous experiences, current roles, just basic summary stuff. Also like information on the recent posts, all those sort of things you can pull from LinkedIn. And there's a lot of tools that can do that. Built into Clay, it's just a lot easier to use the built-in Clay tool, get that information, and then start turning that into some generated messages. So for this one, I've kept it pretty simple. It's just pulling out my LinkedIn profile URL, the headline. I don't have a summary, so there's nothing there. And then my most recent company experience and the URL for that. And then I also have a link to the Incendium page, so we can enrich from there. It'll pull out a link about the industry, company description, and then a link to the company website too for the AI to take advantage of. And then over here in these 3 columns, that's where things get, the heaviest involvement and requires a lot of tweaking. But once you get it down, this is something that's really easy to kind of keep running daily. Just keep feeding leads into as you go. Something I should note is that Clay runs on a credit plan. So we're just on a free plan right now. It's easy to just kind of grab a group of credits. I think they give out 100 for free if you just want to get started and kind of play around without, having to commit to anything, which is nice. And I've noticed they've actually refreshed that month to month. So if you want to check in every once in a while and see what the new stuff is, you can. Basically, each of these LinkedIn enrichments for both person and company cost 1 credit. You can also do the AI personalizations using the Clay credits, but it's probably best for most, if not all people, to get access to OpenAI, set up an API account, and then just load in $5 worth of credits. Each of these personalizations is essentially less than a cent each. So very, very, very cheap. You're going to pay a little bit more for a Clay credit depending on what plan you get, but it's definitely cheaper for you to buy an OpenAI API subscription, or not really a subscription. You're more of just adding a certain amount of money into it and then running through it. Yeah, so basically you just click this button to run. It'll spit out the response based on the information it has and based on the prompt you gave it. So this one's going to be a little bit weird because this whole thing is set up for a company that sells rideshare advertising. One of our members, Carvertise, and we're not really a company that advertises, out of home at all. So might be a little wonky for what it puts out, but just to take a look at kind of the settings here and how complex you really can get with this if you want. This is still kind of entry level at this point, I'd say. But it's basically taking in all these inputs that we've added here from the enrichments from LinkedIn, both person and company. It lets you write kind of a description on what you want the prompt to be, what you want it to focus on. You can mention things you don't want it to include, including like mentioning the company name without like adding a trademark logo or an LLC or anything like that. Not mentioning the company itself directly that you're reaching out from. And I've actually also added a setting here. LinkedIn doesn't allow, or for some reason, Clay doesn't allow scraping school pages as companies. So this is just a way to basically say, like, if you can't find the company page because it's a school, just grab the name of the school and use that and focus on that. You can provide more context as well, which is basically kind of like what the person, in this case, the AI's role is to sell this product, information on the company itself. Here's the description. AI tools also can make it easy to grab these descriptions and kind of throw them in and play the tools off each other. A lot of flexibility here, a lot of ways you can change this and really make it, personalized to what you want. And then also you can play with different things on how you want to like return this data. You can have it export to some sort of CRM system. You can format the text in a certain way. You can set this up to build a whole email, or in this case, we have them set up to just build an intro line. And there's really a lot of flexibility to kind of how you want to make this happen. You're also allowed to select the OpenAI model you're using. Of course, the newest one is always going to be the best, but if you want, depending on if you have, maybe remaining credits for an old model, or in some websites, the older models might be cheaper to use, you can do that here as well. And then this is also where you can add your own API key. Right now, we don't have ours attached, so it just uses one of these Clay credits. And if I go to this, it is trying to use OpenAI, which we don't want it to. Just use Clay and do that. And that'll run the response. And then I have these 2 responses. These are meant to be like introductory lines for a stage in emails. So basically each personalization here is a line in one of the stages. And then once you've kicked out all 3 of these, which you can see right here, it queues up right away once the first one is finished, because I set it up to do that. I think this one also is trying to use the OpenAI key, which is why I got an error. Yeah, it kicks out like a nice little message saying like why mobile billboards could, amplify local awareness and complement your strategic advisory services. Of course, you can get a lot more complex, and depending on your industry, if you're super focused on a certain group, it makes it a lot easier to kind of give it instructions on what you want it to do, what you want it to kick back. And then the easiest way we do this is by exporting to a spreadsheet. So basically this button here just kicks out this row into a spreadsheet. And then if I go back to reply here, just delete that out for this test email. Basically, we just add a variable to like personalization 1, throw that variable in. And then once you've created that variable in your sending platform, when you add those leads from that same row we just kicked out in Clay, this line will get replaced with whatever personalization you wanted to add. And then you can fill out the rest of your email as you please, basically like you would any other normal sequence. You can use this to write subject lines if you want automated. You can have it, randomize a call to action if you'd like. This one, we're just doing an introductory line. You could have it do, maybe a case study. There's all sorts of stuff you can do, a lot of customability here. And Clay is sort of like the best tool for that we've noticed. It's definitely made things a lot easier to do at scale, especially for the amount of leads we're usually sending. And it still gives you enough fine tuning where you can make it, good enough to get out there where you're confident all of these are going to land in somebody's inbox and they're going to see it as a real message versus as some AI garbled up anything, But yeah, that's sort of the gist of it.
Nice. I think thanks for calling out too, Jack, the credits and the pricing, because that is going to get stickier as we collectively use this more and it gets more expensive. And then there's the question of where's the data coming from and where's the data being stored and what's powering it. But just on Descript, for example, since I've started using it in the last few months, it went from just being a sort of all-inclusive monthly subscription with limited AI features to, as they rolled out, I believe they now call it the Overlord. The Underlord. They call it the Underlord is what they're calling the Underlord. There is now, again, there's now restrictions to the paid plan. And now if you want, unlimited AI, now it's another tier. So it's really interesting to see where the pricing is going, because just endlessly generating, whether it's images or text or whatever it is, gets quite pricey for these companies on the back end.
Yeah. And I would, just to be clear with folks there, definitely don't add too much money to your OpenAI API account, because if you do get to a point where you put 100 leads in the sheet and you accidentally run a whole column, all of a sudden you just used up all of your credits. So be careful, know what you're doing. Add in small batches first, just keep it to the $5 minimum limit. Probably the safest way to go. But yeah, there's definitely a potential here to just all of a sudden use up all your credits without really noticing. And I doubt these companies are too kind with giving them back to you if you use them on accident as well.
I will say Jasper auto renewed me for a year, and it was I think over $1,000 for the plan I was on, and they canceled it for me. So again, shout out to Jasper. And they refunded it. So it was an accident. Shout out to Jasper.
Contact support if you're concerned. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely reminds me of everyone, when cell phones first came out and everyone had to watch how many minutes they talked on the phone because you had to, I know you guys are young.
Well, no, I remember when you had unlimited minutes after 7 p.m., stuff like that. So I would only talk on the phone after 7 p.m.
No, exactly. So we're all, AI's it's going through its rate limited thing. It'll we'll get nuclear power or something to fix it. I'm not sure what.
Quantum computing and nukes in the ocean. That's the future.
Great. Let's end this live stream immediately. No, I'm kidding. No, thank you. That was actually super useful on Clay, because I know a little bit about it, and it's obviously the tool to try out, but I do like their waterfall approach. They can enrich from multiple sources, and it seems like a lot with the state of integrations is just getting better across the board as well. And a lot more of these are able to talk to each other, which is really nice. Zapier, I will also just give a quick shout out to, while not super a super AI tool, I will say that Zapier has also just made a lot of workflows and automations a lot easier, from very simple things like, adding a webinar registrant to a calendar invite because the system might not do it for them immediately, to, LinkedIn ad conversion tracking, things like that have gotten a lot more automatic with a lot of the platforms that are out there. So thank you to both of you for sharing your extensive knowledge. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, and I will be getting these clips into Descript very shortly for social posting.
Go AI.
Go AI.
Nice.
All right.
See ya.
Cool. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.